I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
All right, so where do we draw the line? Imagine there is this snake, and the snake is in the forest, and the snake is it's on a path, right near a path leading into the town, and whenever anybody would walk by, the snake would attack them. So one day, there's a monk, and the monk is familiar with the town and the rules of the town and the fact that there is this dangerous snake that is on the road. And so, but the monk's like, you know what? I don't need to worry about the snake because I know about truth, and I'm not afraid of the snake. So the monk walks towards the town, and certainly here comes the snake after the monk. And the monk says to the snake, wait! I know a secret. Just wait. Why are you doing all this harm? Why do you attack people that you have no reason to hurt? And the monk says, I'm going to offer you a sacred truth. And when you know that truth, you will be transformed. And the snake says, oh, Master Monk, what is that truth? And the monk says to the snake, do no harm. And instantly, the snake is transformed. And the snake turns into a gentle worm and says, oh, monk, what can I know? And the monk says, you will know that you do not need to hurt anyone to find your power. You have that power within you. And you can call upon that power whenever you say, do no harm. Try and go to the next one and see if we can get that one. So the monk says, okay, I'm going to take off for a while. I'll be back. In the meantime, do no harm. So as the monk walks away, the snake says, do no harm. Do no harm. Do no harm. Say it with me. Do no harm. Days and weeks passed, and the villagers started to notice that the snake wasn't attacking anyone. So some young boys went out and they saw the snake and they started throwing rocks at it and it wouldn't fight back. They threw stones at it and it wouldn't fight back. One boy got so brave that he went out and he picked up the snail or the snake and he started twirling it around and he threw it against some rocks and it didn't fight back. Rather, it scurried off into its nest. Days and weeks passed and the monk came back. And the monk came back to the town and he asked the villagers, how is the snake? And they said, we haven't seen it. We think that maybe it has died. And the monk is like, oh no. So he goes out along the path towards the forest and he's calling for the snake. And the snake comes out and the monk says to the snake, how are you, dear snake? What has become of you? And the snake says, I am in pain. I am hurting. You know, I'm so proud of myself because I took on this attitude of do no harm. And they came, the people from the village came and they grabbed me and they beat me and they threw stuff at me and they hurt me. But monk, I'm so happy because I did no harm. And the monk says, I told you to do no harm, but I didn't tell you not to hiss. Turn that. Taking care of ourselves is our duty. Setting boundaries that are compassionate and loving is our duty. Sometimes hissing is our duty. Not the tossing and the throwing of stones, but rather just to wait, stop. It's our duty to take care of ourselves. And the only way we can do that truly is by doing no harm. By doing no harm to ourselves, because standing up for what our values are and what we believe in and what we need causes us no harm. And we also, in setting our boundaries, we want to cause no harm to anyone else. So what we're going to talk about today is how do we set up healthy boundaries that acknowledge what we are, what we need, what our values are, and so that we can stand by those values and cause no harm to ourselves or to others. You know, it seems like in this, as spiritual beings having a human experience, we sometimes run into people and things that push our boundaries. Ever noticed? So what we're going to talk about today is how can we transform that? How can we change our thinking, expand our minds, come from our heart in setting our boundaries in ways that empower us to be the best expressions of spirit that we can be. So do you ever find yourself having a hard time saying no? Are you concerned about what others think about you? Discounting your own thoughts, opinions, and intuition? Ever notice that some people drain your energy when you're around them? And so much that you neglect your own needs? Do you believe that your happiness depends on others? Do you ever have trouble asking for what you need? Are you sometimes not sure about what you feel? Are you overly sensitive to criticism or feedback? Do you take on the moods or the emotions of people around you? If so, if you said yes to any of these questions, maybe your boundaries might need to be adjusted. Which is great, because that's what we're going to talk about today, is how we can adjust our boundaries. So go ahead and push the button there, and push it another time. So imagine that you're at work, and your mom calls, or somebody calls you and starts talking to you, and talking, and you're like, oh, you're really stretched thin at work, and this is kind of overwhelming to you, but you feel obligated to listen because you don't talk to that person very long, and you can tell that they really need to talk to you, and they're going on and on and on and on and on. And so you find yourself feeling guilty because you can't draw the line, and you find yourself feeling frustrated, and your energy level drops because you're not able to stand up for what you need, so you just let her talk. And as the day goes on, you're angry at yourself because you didn't set your boundaries. Or imagine you're preparing a nice dinner for your partner, and you've got it all planned, you've purchased everything, you tell them what time dinner's going to be and what you're going to have and how much you're looking forward to them coming home, and then you get a text from them and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little bit late, I'm going to go out, have a glass of wine with some friends after work today. And you go, oh. And they say they'll soon be home, but maybe soon for you and soon for them is two different things. Oh, so how do you feel? Healthy boundaries are how we define our relationship to other people. Our personal boundaries are how we teach people who we are and how we would like to be treated in relationships. Good personal boundaries protect us. Having a sense of boundaries helps us connect with our true self. Because if we're fighting our energy, or if we're giving in and not standing our ground, we can't be present. We can't access the truth of who we are. We can't access the spirit of who we are because we are in defensive mode. Our boundaries should be based on our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings, our decisions, our choices, our wants, and our needs. And they need to be firm and maintained and flexible. Some people establish strict or rigid boundaries. That's the way they've learned to deal with their boundaries in their life. And so they set really firm boundaries. Ever know people like that? Maybe you're like that because it's comfortable and it's safe, right? Nobody's going to get in because I am setting up boundaries to make sure I get what I want and get what I need. And sometimes when we set strict boundaries, we do so out of defensiveness. We do so out of a desire to protect our independence. And so we set up these strict boundaries. And for some, that can lead to loneliness and despair because we're not letting people in. Rigid boundaries are often set up because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to really be seen for who we are. We don't want to be hurt. We don't want to experience loss. And we don't want to experience pain. So, go on to the next one. So we want to understand our values. Remember the snake said, or the monk said to the snake, "Wait, I know who you are." And for us to set boundaries that are really effective, we need to know who we are. We really need to spend time looking at the things that we value and that are important to us, because those are the things that we stand on when we set our boundaries. So we want to be looking at thoughts and actions that we can have to set those boundaries based upon what it is that we truly value and that we truly need. Go on to the next one. Brene Brown said, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. Isn't that true? Ever notice when we don't stand up for ourselves, and somebody violates our boundaries, we feel mistreated, we feel hurt. And then we might get into that place of setting boundaries based on fear and based on judgment and based upon anger. And that's never a good place to set boundaries. On the other hand, we want to be kind, gentle, respectful, and set firm boundaries. See if you can go to the next one. There we go. We want to be kind, gentle, respectful, and firm in our boundaries. So I've got an affirmation for you, and it is, I set clear and compassionate boundaries that honor my values and my needs. Say that with me. I set clear and compassionate boundaries that honor my values and needs. Think about that. You can feel the power in coming from a place of this. These are my values. These are why I'm standing here, because this is what I need to be strong and powerful. So we're going to look at 5 different ways that we can create healthy boundaries. And so let's go to the first one. And the first one is to clarify your values and what you need. And to me, this is where Spirit comes in, to determine what our values are, what your values are. I suggest that you do that in meditation or in contemplation, and just to be in that place of looking at what is it that I truly value. What's important for me? Is it to be heard? Is it to be loving? Is it to be powerful? Is it to be able to be strong in what I believe? Is it to want people to hear what I'm about? Is it about me being in integrity? And again, when we set our values, our boundaries based upon the things that we value, we have strong, powerful boundaries. You know, we might think about the person earlier, the person whose mom kept calling at work. And it was important for that man to set powerful boundaries so that he could do his work. And the key is to set the boundary with his mother in a loving way that honors himself and her. So what do you value and what do you need to be happy? Go on to the next one. Marianne Williamson said, "No one will listen to us until we listen to ourselves." Right? Because people know. If you don't really have strong values, if you haven't determined what it is that I value, and that's going to come across in the way that we act, the way that you talk. No one will listen to us until we listen to ourselves. And go on to the next one. Cartoli said, "Only the truth of who you are, if realized, will set you free." Wow, can you breathe into that until we truly realize who we are? Because if we don't know who we are, we're not standing on that value, right? And our boundaries don't have the power that they do when we absolutely know this is what I stand for. And the second thing we can do is to communicate clear and realistic boundaries. So once we come up with the boundary and we're clear on it, then we want to communicate that to people that we're in relationship with and really to the universe. I've discovered that if I set a boundary that's kind of wishy-washy, right, I'm not firm in it, the universe kind of responds and says, "Really?" Ever notice? Is that really true for you? Well, how about this situation then? How are you going to deal with this? If you're going to stand firm, can you do that over here in this difficult situation? You know, the person whose mom was calling, if and when he says, "You know, Mom, I love you. I want to talk to you. It's really important for me to talk to you. I get that you want to talk to me, but I can't talk to you at work. And I will call you when I get home." Or you could say, "And if you call at work, I'll answer the phone and tell you, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you. Or I just won't answer the phone." But know that I'm going to stick to that boundary. You know, sometimes boundaries are about tough love and being strong and being consistent, which is the next point. I know when I taught first and second grade, those kids would always be wanting to go to the bathroom, right? Or get up and walk around the classroom. And I noticed if I let one kid go to the bathroom, that was cool, right? But if I let another kid go to the bathroom, all of a sudden the whole classroom has to go to the bathroom, right? The kids know that they definitely will push our boundaries to make sure that we're really going to be consistent with them. And the universe and our relationships do the same thing. Because in a sense, I think we're always trying to expand, right? And sometimes that expansion means expanding into somebody else's boundaries. And so it's important for us to know our values, to know what we want, what works for us, and how to let others in a compassionate way. The best way that we can teach others about healthy boundaries is by enforcing our own. And enforcing our own boundaries about what we will do and what we won't do, and also about calling people on it when they violate our boundaries. And the fourth thing we can do to set healthy boundaries is to be respectful. You know, oftentimes when we create boundaries because we get pushed into a position, ever happened to you? Somebody steps into your boundaries and forces you into a place, and you're like, I'm setting a boundary, doggone it. And those boundaries often aren't the most loving and respectful boundaries, right? And oftentimes I've noticed I don't get such a good reaction when it comes from force. We want to be respectful to ourselves and respectful to those with whom we're setting boundaries. Because often the ones we're setting boundaries with are people that we love, aren't they? And we want to do so in a loving way. And some people that are strict with their boundaries, are rigid with their boundaries, can look at how can I set boundaries in a loving way? How can I be a little bit more flexible? I don't have a problem setting boundaries, but what I need to do is how can I set them in a loving way and communicate them and be true to myself and honor the relationship and be respectful. And maybe people that are really great at setting strong boundaries can practice being a little bit more flexible. To kind of breathing in and say, you know what, I'm going to try and work with this person on this project, whatever it is, in a more flexible, more loving way, and not let it push me into a defensive place. So no matter how we set our boundaries, we always have something to work on, because I think we're always trying to work on setting our boundaries so that we can be present, so that we can be loving, so that we can be powerful. And so much of it is about being present, because if our boundaries are being pushed, we can't be present in that place of love, because we're coming from a place of defensiveness. So it's so much about being present and being open. And the fifth thing that we can do is to take responsibility. So often, it's human nature, I think, often to give responsibility to someone or something outside of ourselves. But the whole idea with boundaries is to really be responsible for the boundaries you set. To notice when your boundaries have been infringed, and to take responsibility to work with that in a conscious way, that you allow yourself to be present. You allow yourself to love whoever it is that you're working with and setting boundaries with. Or really, people think of boundaries and then think, well, it's not a very loving thing to do. It's the opposite. To set boundaries is the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves and for others. And sometimes we might think, but if I set this boundary with this person who is pushing my buttons, they're not going to like me very much. Or they're not going to think good things about me. Or they might think that I'm being mean. Or, I want their friendship. I don't want them to get angry with me. I want to maintain the relationship the way it is. I don't want to shift it around. And if that's the case, then we get to think, okay, what's more important? Is it more important about how we look? Or is it more important to stand up for what we value, what we need, what we believe, so that we can be expansive and open and be present? Boundaries are not about pushing people away or trying to control them. It's really about identifying who we are, what we believe in, and what we want for ourselves. And I'm sure that all of us want to be as powerful as we can be, don't we? And don't we want to express the truth? Nobody answered that question. Don't you want to be the most powerful expression of spirit that you can be? Yeah. Okay, so to do so, we want to be open and loving and firm and flexible. Seems like a lot, but we can do that because this is all part of our spiritual journey. A lot of times I find that I can watch my energy. One of the biggest determining factors for me, if I get into a situation where I feel like my boundaries are pushed, I can feel my energy go, woof, gone. And a different kind of energy shows up, right? This, raw, I'm going to set my boundaries. So this is really about working on being consistent, being present, being loving, being flexible, and being conscious. So the monk said to the snake, I ask you to bite, or I ask you not to bite. That's another talk. We'll talk about that next week. The monk said, I asked you not to bite, but I didn't ask you not to hiss. To hiss is to set a boundary and say, I need the space right here. I'm setting a boundary. Honoring your boundaries is the clearest message to honor other people as well. Clarifying and communicating these values can only make us feel better about ourselves. And in some amazing ways, when we feel good about ourselves, we're going to be open to loving other people. And we're going to find that other people love us as well, because they know that we're going to be consistent. We know that we're going to be present. They're going to know that they're going to be safe. I set clear boundaries and honor my values and needs. Let's say that together. I set clear boundaries that honor my values and needs. And then another part of that affirmation that I forgot on this slide is that I set compassionate, clear boundaries that honor my values and my needs. I invite you to close your eyes. And let's take a deep breath and breathe into this moment. And just kind of check in with yourself and see what you're feeling. Breathing in and breathing out. And really being present. And bring your attention from your mind into your heart. And into that place of compassion. And I invite you this week to explore what it is that you value. What is it that you value, that you need to feel powerful, to feel loving, to be truthful to all that you are? And then I invite you just to look at, if these are the things that I value, how can I be in the world? How can I be in relationship that draws upon these values and allows me to be the powerful person I am? And let's take just a moment to join together for a short time in the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. I invite you to remember this moment, to remember this pause this week, and take a little more time in the silence to reflect on what it is that you value and how can you compassionately experience more of that in your life. Breathing in and breathing out, gently allowing your presence, your awareness to return to this moment. And to open your eyes when you're ready. I invite you now to prepare your love offerings and your donations and your investments in Unity on Maui. And as you gather your gifts today, think about what you value. What is it that's important to you? And how are you going to experience that you value this week? How are you going to stand in your values in a more powerful way? In the way that you spend the time, in the people that you're with, how will you share that which you value with the world? And thank you for those of you who are watching on Facebook this morning. You can make a donation to Unity on Maui also by sending it to your donation to 483 South High Street in Wailuku. And you can also go to our website and click on our donate button. It's a safe and easy way to give. So thank you as well. So while we're holding our gifts, why don't we affirm together our affirmation and prayer for prosperity. And let's say it together. Together, through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Namaste. Let's pray together. Thank you, loving Spirit, for these gifts that have come to us in love. We hold them, we bless them. We give thanks for them, knowing that they are moving through Unity on Maui, across this amazing island, this beautiful state, out into the world. And we behold a world that's filled with love, with lights, with communication, with boundaries, with joy, and with peace. And so it is. Namaste. And if you'd like to bring flowers on Sunday, it's nice to have something live on the lectern besides me. And you can do that by signing a sign-up sheet in the back by their prayer box and put in your name and how you'd like the flowers donated. And we'll announce them on Sunday morning. And let's before we go to Alan, let's bring up Brad. Brad's going to be part of a art show, and he asked if I could let him talk a little bit about that. So let's give a hand for Brad.
Can you hear me? Oh, I guess I can hear me. Anyways, November 26th and 27th, the week of Thanksgiving, me and two other artists are having a show called Unspoken Views. And it's this triple winged little brochure here. It's on the back table on the right-hand side there if anybody's interested. And the directions for it are pictured, drawn out inside of it, and a little description of each one of us three. And it's about 15.5-mile marker from the courthouse down there, out on a highway on the left-hand side, the water side. And it's a new property that goes all the way down to the water. It's a bluff overlooking the ocean. And Carla and Steve Thistle own the property, and he has built all the buildings on it and everything. They've been there for quite a while. And so we'd love to have you come out for a conversation and viewing of our sort of internal world that we do in our free time. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. All right, and it came to my attention today that someone in this group turned 81. Who might that be? I think it's Kelly Stanley. Anybody else have a birthday in November? Anybody else? Somebody's got the odds are there's going to be more than one person. Okay, your birthday's in November too. So why don't you both stand and let's sing happy birthday to them, shall we? Let's do it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. All right, very good. Okay, now let's go on to Alan. Our dear friend Alan, who was 100 years old, passed recently. And so we're going to celebrate his life next Saturday, November 19th at 2 p.m. right here. So please come for that. I know it'll be an amazing situation. And some of us will share some stories about Alan. We'd love to hear your experience of him and what he shared that changed your life, because he was such a rock in our community, and what an amazing man. I think he told me one time that his living room had 6 workout stations, right? A treadmill and a ellipse type of exercise machine, and he told me that he worked out 15 minutes out of every hour. And there was a picture around here for a while of him in his heyday. So what a great man. So come next Saturday and we'll celebrate Alan Reed. And today is the clothing swap. Woo! People have come from miles around, ladies, to share their wear. And so that'll be happening at 1:30 today. And so if you'd like to share your wear, you can do that, and it'll be a lot of fun. Ladies always have lots of fun with that. Yes, Simaya, if you're interested in doing that. And you can come with the clothes you have on, I guess, right? Lisa. All right, what's next? Course Miracles class is happening every Monday right here at 4 o'clock. Linda does a great job with that. I hear people say how wonderful that class is. So if you are a student of the Course in Miracles or are curious what it's all about, come Monday at 4 o'clock. And Saturday, November 26th, Mike is organizing a game night of playing Celebrity Password, and that happens right out here on our foyer. It's a lot of fun, and you get to be a celebrity for a moment. So come and check that out. Also, we are doing meditation right here in the sanctuary at noon every Thursday. I read the daily word, and we spend a half an hour in the silence. It's a great way to get centered and focused in the middle of the week. And next week, my talk is titled Gratitude, the Key to Success and Prosperity. The universal law of gratitude states that what you give and what you appreciate magnifies and comes back to you. What you are grateful for, you experience more of it in your life because you're really changing your consciousness in a way that allows you to experience gratitude, to be grateful, and to have more prosperity and love and success in your life. So that's what we'll be talking about next week. And my Walk Your Talk for today is in the back. It's a summary of everything I talked about today. And so if you'd like to know what I talked about tomorrow, when you talk to all your friends and your relatives, and you're on Facebook and you're on Zoom and all that, you'll know what we talked about. And so that's it for today. Why don't we stand up, take a deep breath, and we'll say the prayer for protection. So let's do that now. Let's say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you, friends.
Where I live, they're all raised.